Does it ever seem as if you're constantly running all over the place and you need a bit of structure? I know I've experienced this firsthand, and I'm willing to bet that you have as well. As a college student, there always seems to be this sense of urgency. Something's due at 11:59 tonight, we have a test tomorrow to study for, but I don't get off of work until late, and there's a football game tomorrow that's supposed to be the biggest game of the season, and everyone's going, and you don't want to miss it. There just doesn't seem to be enough hours in the day to completely fulfill all of your wants and needs. Although being a full-time student, a part-time employee, and a social being is hard to juggle, it is in fact not impossible. In this speech, I hope to potentially help college students become a more well-rounded individual by prioritizing responsibilities, tediously scheduling events, and maintaining good communication skills to the best of their abilities. Our first lesson consists of learning to prioritize. So you're aware of all of these things that you need to get done, but you have no clue in what order to do them in, or if you'll need help. There are many things that factor into how you should organize your work. The best way to do this is to order things from what is most important to least important. For school, it is imperative that you take the time to learn your material. After all, the main goal is to graduate, right? So of course, school comes first. Next is working. It is understandable that in college it can become a bit arduous keeping up with the little things like toilet paper, laundry detergent, and most importantly, food. Trust me, I'm a broke college student as well. I feel everyone's pain. Having a job can add on to the responsibilities, but it does not have to necessarily be hard on you. If you know that you're going to have a busy day in school or that you'll be extra exhausted, try to take that day off from work ahead of time. I'm not necessarily saying just don't go to work because you don't want to, only if you have to. Besides, school comes first. Lastly, let's talk about prioritizing with friends and social events. This is the fun part. Everyone loves to have a good time with our friends and at big school events, but as mentioned earlier, it is not the most important thing on our list. So now that you understand that each of these things have a different weight of importance, you can begin to idealize how your week or even month will pan out. This brings us to our next lesson about scheduling. My first semester of college, I attended a mandatory freshman class that was supposed to help students become more comfortable in their new environment. In this class, we had a project where we had to lay out our semester on an online calendar. On the calendar, we had to include all class times, regular work times if you had a job, and practice times if you played a sport. You also had to include time for studying, social events, and big exam dates. After we submitted our calendars, we were asked if this helped us in any way. Everyone's answers were different. Some people favored the online calendar, and others were leaning more towards a planner. They needed something that they could write in and physically touch. With that being said, every single person agreed that it was much easier for them to keep track of everything if they kept note of it in a planner or online. Nicholas Marie, author of Managing a Busy Schedule for College Students, tells us that we should first determine a time frame out of the day to actually sit down and complete a specific task. Secondly, he mentions that we should attempt to shorten that length of time if possible. Once you've completed these things, you're able to physically check off each task and check ahead so that you're aware of what needs to be done next. By doing this, you can section out times of the day for everything you need to do, whether it be homework for different classes, studying, or enjoying time with friends. My last lesson of the speech is communication. Why are effective communication skills important is a question asked by Beth Dumbald in her Straight Line blog. She answers this question with many explanations, but the main one being, when you communicate, both in person and in writing, you're more productive and efficient. Communication is helpful to you, your professor, your manager, your friends, and your parents. For example, if you're running late to work, a simple phone call will decrease the amount of consequences. If you're struggling with schoolwork and you need additional help, email your professor and set up an appointment that fits both your schedule and his or her schedule. This will benefit you and it will show your professor that you're engaged in your work. Also, it is very crucial that you include your friends in what you're doing. If you cannot make it to an event, just let them know beforehand. If you want to make plans with them on a specific date, just communicate that with them. In our course textbook, Understanding Human Communications, it explains that communication is so important that it is necessary for physical health. This does not only pertain to those who are close to you, but for any and everyone you come in contact with. In conclusion, school, friendships, and paying jobs are things that we all want to excel in, and it's more than possible to do so. Now that you have heard the speech, you know that it is imperative to keep in mind the three main factors mentioned: prioritizing, scheduling, and communications. The most important thing of all is to attempt to remain stress-free and do not take on too much at once, and never be afraid to ask for help.